Okay. Okay. So welcome, and we're back to uh, finding ourselves in the Psalms, and we're in the middle of chapter 16, the 16th Psalm. And I'll do a quick English review of of as far as we've gotten, and then we'll dive back into the text. So again, it starts out, Miktam David, by David, a precious melody. We don't know exactly what that means, but he's, dear God, protect me, for I shelter in you. Say to God, you are in control. You do not have to, you do not have to send the good I receive. Uh, there are a couple different ways of understanding that. You could understand one of two ways, as we said before, either as you don't have to send the good I receive. And by the way, that is how most of the commentators do take it. That I don't necessarily deserve the good that you give me. Or it could be understood that I have no good without you, right? That all the good that I have comes from you. Both of those would be acceptable. But in the merit of the holy ones who lie in the earth, the mighty ones, all my wishes are fulfilled. And by the way, there's a vigorous discussion among commentators about who these holy ones are. Does it refer to the tzaddikim? Does it refer to the righteous ones? Refer to the angels? Does it refer to the avot? Um, uh, One of the nicest comments is from the Ibn Ezra, who says who says no, it cannot refer to our ancestors because it just wouldn't make any sense with the poem. The poem is all about us, right? The poem is about the experience of David HaMelech. Why would he suddenly recall the experience of his ancestors? Um, so all my wishes are fulfilled. May troubles increase. Now remember, he switches that gear switch that he does, where suddenly he remembers the bad folks. Nice, John. Okay. He suddenly remembers the bad folks. He says, may troubles increase for those who pursue false gods. I will not make blood offerings to them, nor mention their names. God, my share, my lot in life are from you. You guide me to my goal. And I wanted to let's sort of start with that. So this is verse 5. Um, So we said manat chalki v'kosi, that my share and this kosi is my cup. You remember the famous line from Psalm 23. Kosi reveah, my cup runneth over. So what does that mean? It means that my share is more than I would expect. It's overflowing. And here he says that his his share comes from you. Atata michlarli, and and my you guide me. Here it says you guide me to my goal. Um, he translates it as goal, but really it's uh to my lot. You head me into the direction of my fate, so to speak. That the lottery of the world is in your hands. It's an interesting way that he does this, where he uses a word of an idea of direction, and at the same time something that implies chance, right? Goral, which means really lottery, implies chance. So the two of them are sort of in the same place, which I think is quite interesting. Um, okay. So we continue with verse 6. Havalim naflu li banimim says, my portion is a good one. Says, afna shafra alai. And my inheritance is so beautiful. That's where we left off. Okay. Avarech et Hashem. He says, literally, I bless God. And it's very interesting this idea of blessing God comes up many times, um, in Jewish literature. And it's very problematic. And not only that, we have a specific practice that when we um, uh, when we eat food or we do any activity, we say Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you, God. And the question that comes up is this: why did the rabbis come up with this formula of saying, okay, blessed are you, God, that as if we have the power to bless God? So there are two differing interpretations of this. So one is to say, okay, it's actually an A equals B sentence. You're not saying may you be blessed. You're saying Baruch Atah, you are the blessing. You are the blessing, right? Or the source of all blessing. You are the source. We're blessing the word Baruch, which means blessing. It's related also to the word Barech, which means a pool. Right? So you are the pool, the source of all blessing. That's one way of understanding it. Rab Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who was a great rabbi of the 19th century Germany and Frankfurt, he says no. He says no. That when it says here, for example, Avarechet Hashem, I bless God, it means literally that God has given us, that part of the reciprocal relationship between us and God is that God gives us the right, so to speak, to offer our blessings to him. So it's an interesting argument, but that is what he says here. Avarechet Hashem, Asher Ya'atzani, who has shown me the way, or literally has shown me the way, or has given me advice. Interesting, the word Eitzah, the word advice, and to give advice is an important one. The Zohar Kadosh, the sort of great textbook of, or it's not really a textbook, the great compendium or mystical commentary on the Torah, says that all of the mitzvot, all the commandments of the Torah are actually eitzot, are also advice. So advice is something that we take and it improves us and transforms us and changes us. So here when it says, Avarech Hashem says, I bless God, Asher Yad, that he has shown me the way through advice, right? And Rabbi Nachman, by the way, mentions that we should always pray for advice. We should always pray that either God directly or through our friends should give us good advice. He says, Af leilat yisruni kliyotai. He says, even at night, I am guided toward him. And this question about night is going to come up. Actually, we're going to hear about the night in the next psalm too. But here, the night is the time when we're alone, right? It's the time when we're alone. And so even at night, when nobody's watching me, right, and I'm in my time of meditation, the time when it's a good message for people, especially during the last 10 days of Ramadan, where people try to stay up late into the night, to pray late into the night, and to have a little bit of time for solitude. This is a good message, right? Even at night, I'm guided toward him, right? So even when there's nobody around and there's quiet and there's peace, says, I'm guided in the direction of God. And then Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. I set God in front of me always. This is maybe the most important line in the entire Psalms. If you can't see my house here, but you can't see everything in my house here. But if you could, you would see that pretty much up on every wall, you would find this verse. This verse is pretty much on every wall in my house. If you look, right behind me, okay, you can see the that picture right there, somewhere behind me, right in that middle of right on the top of the picture, it says Shiviti Adonai Negdi Tamid. In fact, that kind of a picture is called the Shiviti after this verse. And it means I put God in front of me always. So the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, or the introduction, I think it's the introduction to the Torah, which you see in editions of the Shulchan Aruch, written back in the 1500s, 1600s, says that this verse is the essence of Jewish law. It says, what is Jewish law for? Why do we have all this system of laws? It says, really, Shiviti Hashem Negdi Tamid, in order to come to the awareness that God is before you always, to have a constant awareness of God. This constant awareness of God is the goal of the entirety of what we call religion, right? All the rituals, all the practices, according to the codes, is Shiviti Hashem Negdi Tamid, to know that Hashem is before me always. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, by the way, recommends that one takes a spiritual practice to see the name of Hashem in front of them always, to actually visualize the name of Hashem as often as you can, to see Yud He Vav He, and to see it in front of you. The Baal Shem Tov also has a beautiful take on this verse. He says, Shiviti Hashem. Shiviti comes from the word, can also be related to the word shave, which means to be equal, or to be equanimitous. And so he says, Shiviti says, I'm equanimitous, I'm calm, I'm in a state of peace, because Hashem the Negdi Tamid, because God is before me always. As long as I understand that God is before me always, I can be kind of on an even keel. The Tosher Rebbe says something a little bit different. I'm giving a little bit of Hasidic philosophy, please forgive me. He says a little bit different. He says, Shiviti Hashem, it says, Lenegdi Tamid. He says, I keep Hashem before me, and it's always, Lenegdi Tamid means it's always against me. Meaning to say that when you have a constant awareness of God, it's not easy. It means that you're in constant struggle with yourself, right? If you're constantly aware of God, it's gonna change the way that you see things and do things, and you're gonna have to struggle with yourself. So the negdi tamid means opposite to me, can even be against me. So it kind of like, it testifies against me, right? So having God present means I have to do things, and I have to do things differently. So this is a very, very important point, a very verse. Many of the Hasidic rabbis say that it's very good to repeat this verse over and over again as a spiritual practice. So as a kind of, I guess, what Sufis would call a dhikr, and to say something over and over again. It's supposed to be a very good practice. So I highly recommend it. Nicole wrote, interesting, it means God is in charge, but he also gives us room to choose. Yeah, that way that he put it before, where he sort of directs us to our goral, where he directs us to our fate, to what's fated for us. And it means that there's kind of both of those things at work. Of course, if those of us who been dealing with duties of the heart, if you remember his treatment of free will and predestination, he ends up saying that, okay, both are really true, right? That they interact with each other. And both of those things are really true. Okay. Ki miyamini, because he is at my right hand, bal emut. I won't be moved, or I won't stumble, right? I won't be. I like the translation bal emot, but I think it really means stumble. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to. I'm not. I'm going to be able to hold my ground. I'm going to be able to hold my ground. Lachen samach libi. He says, and so my heart is full of joy. Yagel kavodi, and my soul is happy. Interesting. The word here, kavodi, means literally. Kavod means literally honor, right? One's honor. We mentioned the word before. It's related to to heaviness. That somebody has gravitas, right? The part of me that is honorable, and kavod. So, very often he seems to use the word kavod in the Psalms as a poetic term, for the soul. So my heart is full of joy, and again, the heart is not your physical heart; it's the center of your being. So the center of my being is full of joy, and my soul is happy. Even my body. This is af here could be translated as even, right? Af b'sari yishkon lebetach. Even my body rests in safety, which is interesting because when we have emotions, right, we do feel them. We do feel them in our body. And it's possible, it's possible for us to feel a kind of happiness, right? And, we're happy and everything's great. You're at the birthday party, right? I feel like that's a good example. You're at the birthday party and everybody's happy and smiling and you're singing happy birthday, but there could still be that feeling in your body where something is bothering you, where you're feeling feeling a dread or a fear or a worry, right? And so here he says, not only is my heart is full of joy, my soul is happy, even my body feels safe. The betach means literally to feel a state of in a state of trust, right? Feels safe. Those who are doing on Wednesday, we're doing the Shara Bitachon, right? The gate of trust, and the word trust is related to this word betach, right? To be in a state of safety. So even my body rests in safety. My body is calm and feels safe. Kilo tazov nafshi lishon says you will not abandon me to the depths. V'lo titein chassidka dirot shachad. Says nor allow your chassid, your devoted one, the one who's pious, the one who's kind, the one who goes beyond the limits of what you ask from him, will not face destruction. Now these words, Sha'ol and Shochad, translated here as the depths and destruction, are difficult words. Poetically, right? Poetically, they're being used. They're being used to describe conditions of misery and sadness, right? Sheol, it's possible, there's arguments that at least in the Torah that Sheol is a way of describing some kind of after death underworld. But here he's using it as you're not going to. He says you're not going to allow me, right, who is your Hasid, right, who is your devoted one, to face destruction, to face the state of misery. It's interesting, and that David HaMelech calls himself several times in the Psalms Hasid. He calls himself a pious person, and the question comes. There's a beautiful. There's almost a whole book written on this. The Tanya, which is kind of the textbook of Chabad philosophy, a certain group of Hasidim, is built partially around this question. But how is it possible that he can call himself, a pious person? I mean, doesn't that make you? Isn't that kind of arrogant? Like, isn't it arrogant to say you're a saint? I always love how the Mormons are the Church of the Latter-day Saints, right? I mean, or other churches that will refer to each other as the saints. I mean, Marymount University, the football team is called the Saints. I mean, I think that's rough. I mean, to call yourself the Saints. That seems kind of egotistical and arrogant to call yourself the Saints. And so they asked that about David HaMelech, right? I mean, he's supposed to have defeated his Yetzer Hara, his evil inclination. How does he go around calling himself Hasid? I'm the pious one. So the simple answer that's offered by the Baal HaTanya, and actually Rabbi Nachman I think supports it in another place, that, well, it's true, right? I mean, it may not be that we are always a chassid, because then the question is finding yourself. How can I possibly read this psalm, right? How can I read this psalm? And I'm saying to God, right now it's me speaking, right? It's me speaking. It's right. It's not God, right? Because it's not David HaMelech. It's me speaking because I'm the one now praying, right? And I'm turning to God, right? And I say, Lo tazod nafshi l'shol, you're not going to bend me to the depths. Lo titin lirod shachad, you're not going to allow your pious ones. Is that pious one? Me? Really? Me? Right? How can I say that? So I can say that because there is a part of me that is a pious one, right? There is a part of me. There is a part of me that, even though I can say that, yes, there's a lot of me that has plenty of schmutz on it, right? Has plenty of uncleanness. Excuse the Yiddish, but it has plenty of uncleanness on me. There's plenty of that, but there is underneath it a lot of beautiful jewel, right? I have this soul, I have this kavodi, I have this honorable soul, and I have this honorable soul, and I can speak from that place. And Anya says, practical lesson, healthy self-esteem, and yes, it is. It's absolutely. There's no prayer without self-esteem. This Rabbi Nachman says this, and I think it makes perfect sense. There's no prayer without self-esteem. You cannot stand in front of the creator of the world and plead your case if you have no faith in yourself. If you think you're absolutely nothing and you're unimportant, then how are you going to stand in front of the sovereign of the world and say, please, I'm asking you to take care of me. I'm asking you to help me with my mission. I'm asking you to, how can you do that? It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So you have to have a healthy sense of who you are, and to say to yourself, yes, inside of me is this chassid. Inside of me is this pious person. Maybe I don't show it all the time. Maybe I want to show it more. Maybe that's a moment for reflection, right? And we can pause in our saying psalms and say, "Wow, I just called myself ten chassidcha." Right, that you won't allow your chassid. I'm not maybe your chassid yet, but I know I have it inside me. I know it's there somewhere, and I really hope I can give that to you. I really hope. And then finally, Todi'eni Orachaim says you will show me. Todi'eni is from da, to know. You will show me. You will teach me the path of life. And in your face, in your presence, is complete joy and satisfaction. And by your right hand, right? I love this. He takes the netzach. It's okay. Eternal bliss, eternal pleasantness by your right hands. The right hand is closeness. This is in the ancient world, the person who was most trusted, the person who was most most protected, right, would sit at the right hand, and so me sitting at your right hand, there's nothing better than to me to be sitting with Hashem, him right next to me, and to be in his presence. This thing where he says, "Todi'eni Orachaim, teach me the path of life." This is, if there are if there are themes which are repeated many, 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 many times in the Psalms, this is one of them, right? David HaMelech is constantly asking for direction. He's constantly asking, please show me the way. I don't know the way to go. Which I think speaks a lot to the human condition, right? We're often in a situation where we just don't know what the next step is. We don't know where we're supposed to go. And so it's, he demonstrates for us this very beautiful, gives us these beautiful words to say, Todeni or Chaim, let me know what's the path of life, what's going to lead me to real life. Not just this, when he talks about the Orach Chaim, the way of life, he's not talking about just to keep me alive. That's not life, right? Life is not just having a pulse, but life is really having a life. Is having life that's counted not just in years, but in days and hours and moments, where every minute counts. Okay, so thoughts on chapter 16 before we gently move ahead. I won't say plow because I never plow. I'm not a good plower. Thoughts? No thoughts. Okay. Everybody's so happy. Okay. So we'll continue with 17. Okay. So again begins Tefillah David, a prayer by David. Now, again, I'm not sure what if there was a kind of a musical notation here that we would, if we were part of the choir of the Levites, would we sing this differently? I don't know, but perhaps we would. Tefillah David, a prayer of David. It says, Shema Adonai Tzedek. God, listen to what is right. Here he translated as sincere. I like that. Right? Listen to what is sincere. Hakshiva rinati, and hear my cry. Interesting, rinati could often mean my exaltation. Could mean my exaltation. I looked at the commentaries here because I was confused, and they took it as cry. And contrasted it with the next line. So hakshiva rinati hazinat filati, right? Hakshiva rinati hazinat filati. You can hear the rhyme. So hear my cry and pay attention to my prayer. So a cry is something that you do. This is Ibn Ezra again. So it's something that you do out loud, right? And tefillah, prayer, is something that you do quietly. So when I cry, listen to me. When I'm quiet in my prayer, listen to me. As long as below svatay mirma, that what I speak, the prayers that I speak are spoken without deceit. Without deceit. Anya says, Rina means song, celebration, usually, right? But apparently here, it could be that, take note of my singing. It's possible. It's possible. But again, he points to the sincerity, right? That it's below. It's not, I'm not trying to get away with anything. And this, I mean, for me personally, this idea of below svatay mirma, without speaking with deceit, is complicated. We mentioned this idea after in the post prayer, and I often worry, about my prayers. Like, am I really being sincere? Am I really telling the truth? When I'm asking for something, am I asking for what I really want or what I think I should say I want, or what I think I should want. Am I being honest about myself? You know, when I confess, you know, when I talk about my shortcomings, you know, am I really being honest about my shortcomings, or am I hiding something? You know, am I keeping, as the Rambam says, Maimonides says, it's like um, it's like immersing yourself in the mikvah with a frog in your hand, right? It's like holding on to. It's like immersing yourself in the waters of purification while holding on to the very thing that makes you impure. Right? Am I doing that? You know, am I holding on? You know, I think he uses the word sheretz. It can be a frog or like a lizard. So by holding on to a creepy crawly while I'm uh, immersing myself in the holy waters. It says milfanecha mishpati yetze. Okay, may your judgment overlook all of my sins. Einecha techezena misharim, and your eyes focus only on may your eyes see misharim, the things that I do which are straight, right? The things which are good. V'chanta libi, and there's a I love the way it's done here, because he keeps the structure of the poetry nicely. V'chanta libi, pakakta laila, tzraftani, bal timsa, zbonti bal yavrupi. He says, you examined what's in my heart. Pakanti laila, you inspected me at night. So what have you inspected me at night? Again, the nighttime is when nobody is looking, right? When nobody is looking. Okay, what we do during the day can be for the benefit of other people, right? What we do during the day can have a certain level of deceit in it, right? We talked about this mirma, right? Maybe we're trying to get some sort of advantage. Maybe we want to appear a certain way, maybe, right? But in the nighttime, when we're by ourselves, that's when we show who we are. He says, and he checked me out. He examined me at night. Tzraftani, he says, he put me to the test. So this verb tzraftani is the verb that we use when we refine metal, right? So if you take metal and you heat it up, and then the dross, comes to the top, and you scoop off you scoop off the dross, or I'm not sure exactly what you call that, but you clean off the dross, and eventually you purify the metal. It says that's the verb that's being used here. So it's not just that you put me to the test, but you refined me, right? You refine me. This is not a passive process. It's not just God looking at us, right? God doesn't just look at us. It's not like, and even this thing where it says, B'chanta libi, you examined my heart, right? For those of us who watch science fiction, right? It's for Roxanne, right? There's all this scanning going on, right? Where they're scanning you, and they're able to see all these things, right? So this is a scanning. He scanned my heart, right? He scanned my heart, and he refined me, right? Put me to the test means that this inspection is transformative. It's not something where he looks at us and then he steps away, but in the process he's transforming us. Bal timtza zemoti bal yavrubi. He says, and you did not find all that you wished, right? He says, may the desire, it says, Zamoti bal yavarpi. He says, may the desire to be tried not cross my lips again. Now, there are different ways of understanding this verse. Okay, so one is it says Baal Timtza could be you didn't find anything negative, right? Right? You took a good look at me, right? You examined me closely, right? You refined me, right? You put me in the crucible, right? And you tested me out in the crucible to see if there were impurities. And Bal Timsa, you didn't find anything. Samoti Bal Yeropia, and nothing bad, nothing crossed my lips. Okay? So you didn't catch me. So, I mean, this is another way of reading it, is you didn't catch me. You didn't find you didn't find me saying anything wrong, right? You didn't find me saying anything wrong. Even at night, right? Even at night, when you tested me out, you found that and this goes back to the take note of my prayer spoken without deceit, right? You didn't find anything negative in me. You didn't find anything negative in me. Lepulot Adam bidvar svatecha. He says, again, there are very two ways of understanding that. He could be talking about in general. So one way to read this is, as it says here, let people act as you have spoken, right? Or he can be talking about himself. He can say them in terms of what people do. Bidvar svatecha. He says, I followed, or I observed the words of your lips, right? I did what you said. Okay, when it came to dealing with other people, I did it as you said. Or it could be say, let people act, right? Let people act with one another as you have spoken. Ani shemarti orchot parit, and says, and me, I guard myself from the ways of parits. He translates here as brazen, but it also means people who trespass, right? The people who transgress, but people who pass limits. The idea is that, look, you have set certain boundaries, and I guard myself against the ways of people who break those boundaries, right? Or together means, like, to break down a fence, right? To break down a fence. Okay, so I keep away. I keep away from the ways of those people who break the fence. It says Tamuch asherai b'magolatecha, and may my steps always keep to your path. Bal nimotu pa'amai, so that my feet do not slip. And again, like this image of the image of the path. This one, by the way, b'magolatecha is a path, but it's a path that's winding. It's a winding path. It's not a straight path. There are many different words for path. There are paths. There are sideways. There are trails. There are all sorts of different ways of saying this is one. This is one that goes around in curves. So may my steps always keep to your curvy path, and so that my feet do not slip. Ani kraticha, says, I call out to you. Kitanenia, because you will hear, because you will answer me, God. Right? V'lo shama imrati. He says, and you will answer me, dear God. Listen and hear my words. Chaflei chasadecha. Display your love. Display your kindness. And so there's no doubt that God's kindness is there's no doubt that God's kindness is there. God's kindness is always there, right? Chassid, kindness, chesed, right? His kindness is always there, right? Chafle chasadecha, but show it to me, right? Reveal it to me. Moshe achosim mitkomamim b'yamincha, and save those people who shelter in you. Save them from the ones who come up against you. He says this, mitkomim are people who stand up, people who brazenly stand up against God, the aggressors, right? So so those people who take refuge in you, save them from the aggressors, save them from the negative forces, save us from all the things which stand against us. It says, biyaminecha, with your right hand. Again, I want to feel you close to me. I want to feel God close to me. I'm at his right. I'm at his right hand, and he's ready to help me at any moment. And I've taken refuge in him, and so he should protect me from whoever and whatever stands against me, and to let his kindness and his love for me to be known. And that's my 45 minutes. And so we'll continue with 17 in the next week. In the next week, we'll start with protect me like the apple of your eye, like the bat ayin, like the daughter of your eye. Thoughts, meditations, objections, Rotten Tomatoes. Okay.
I tried to type, but I was too slow, so I didn't make it before you started the next Tehillim 17. So for 16, I have Tehillim with Russian translation, and it says that parak is a golden song. The translation is it's a golden song.
Okay, nice. A golden song. Wow, nice. Very nice. Yeah, Rinati. I mean, that is the normal. That would be a normal translation. Yeah. More thoughts? Okay, everybody's so quiet.
It's number 16, it's not the 17.
Now there's number
16 is a golden song.
Yes, the golden song. I love the gold. I don't know where they got the golden part, but that's great. That's a little poetic license, but that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thoughts? That's it. Okay, everybody's so quiet today, but that's okay. I wish everybody a beautiful week. Thank you for coming, making my week, making everything. Please, next time, bring your friends, bring your enemies, bring people who aren't yet your friends. And don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll see you Be'ezrat Hashem on Thursday. And Nicole, you're welcome. I didn't do anything. I just sit here and do my best. Okay, so I love you all, and bye.
Please share Chavod Levavot recordings.
Yes, I will. I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.